There's obviously some flower symbolism going on here.
Lousy, for some reason it is considered important that flowers be constantly streaming out of our protagonist's bum.
Flower symbolism.
Go watch this. It is fucking badass. Absolute garbage. She has blue hair. This is amazing. Freaking good. Absolute garbage. The biggest flaw is definitely the hair. I knew this series would be good. Absolute garbage. Her hair should be blue, but it's purple. I sensed it. I knew it. There was so much hype behind it. Not as much hype as a Kami Ga Kill or Sword Art Online. Absolute garbage. The whole hair color thing, it has a lot of weight. Directly leads into where she beds Kaneki. That is very vital. This is the anime I love. Absolute garbage. It just shows that they truly don't really understand or comprehend what Tokyo Ghoul is really about. The blue hair. I love violence and gore and blood. Absolute garbage. It's not all about the violence. It's not all about the dark themes. It's not all about the edge. It is amazing. I love it so much. Hopefully, this series isn't ruined. The first 2 seasons are absolute garbage. These same feelings from Black Bullets, and I love Black Bullet, and that's how I feel about Tokyo Ghoul. Absolute garbage. Her hair should be blue, but it's purple.
I have very little to say about this modern piece of my shit, other than calling it cute girls doing cute things with some zombies in the background. So instead I will show you what others are saying about it that make it seem like it's a masterpiece of thematic subtlety.
So usually when I rate shows, to be able to give them a 9 or a higher, there has to be some substance to the show. Even after reading the manga and watching most of the show, nothing really clicked for me until the last episode of the anime. Now I understand what the show is about. It's about the stress being put on students in Japan.
Because modern anime in general are totally not about relieving stress through escapism.
The first thing I realized after this clicked in my head was how the name of the club correlates with the thematic message. The name School Living Club is more figurative because a student in Japan might feel like they're living at school due to how stressful school is in Japan. They are also surviving at school, which would mean it's very much an everyday struggle to not let yourself go under.
And it's totally not a lazy-ass excuse for making up a club with a whatever name in a whatever school for a whatever plot, like all modern anime do. That also means love live is symbolically about loving your life by wasting it on worshipping fake idols.
Yuki is another essential element to the thematic message of the show. She's delusionally optimistic and very silly, but she's characterized by how she is essential to the group remaining sane.
Because every moe blob out there is totally not serving the exact same purpose for its audience.
She's also characterized visually as being different from other students, because the colors on her uniform are inverted, which symbolizes her inverted state of mind.
Or she has a really crappy sense of unattended fashion. School regulations don't allow so much school customization.
The other important element to the theme is the zombies. These represent the mindless routine that students might fall into.
Or the audience who loves moe shit.
Megune is important to the thematic message of the show as well. She is a teacher who is very friendly with her students, and is overall a standout teacher who keeps the girls from falling into the Fordistic routine that many high schools in Japan try to achieve. Her death could maybe be more metaphorical to the girls moving grades away from their teacher, or even Megune falling into a zombie-like state due to the school itself. She lives on in Yuki's delusion, representing the long-lasting impact a great teacher can have.
Or Yuki so autistic to the point she makes up friends instead of trusting the ones she already has.
At the end of the show, the girls graduate and decide which shelter to go to next, a college or a factory. This is a choice students face at the end of high school when they decide rather to enter the workforce or to go to university.
Meaning when zombie survivors go to a mall, it's not done for survival, it's a career choice.
Yuki also develops towards the end of the show. She no longer is delusional, but remains optimistic. She sees the zombies eating something in the last episode. This might represent her accepting bullying as a reality. She also sees all the cracks and broken windows, which is like her seeing how the school is run down.
First he said zombies represent mindless routine, and now he says they represent bullying.
I believe the 6 main characters represent different aspects of ourselves. Tarumaru represents a companion, while Megune represents a mentor. The girls themselves represent the 4 parts of our mind: intelligence, Miki; compassion, Yuri; endurance, Kurumi; and enjoyment and optimism, Yuki.
Or they're simply flavoring the moe harem.
Yuki is characterized as seemingly being useless, but she is actually necessary to the sanity of the group, just like we need to enjoy the small things to stay sane.
Or she is simply the sick wife who you want to protect. Ooh, Okay, now here is another opinion about the show which I happen to agree with. The setting and most of its elements are irrelevant. You can take out the school part and it won't make a difference. Just like it happens in most anime, it's just there so the scriptwriter can be lazy as fuck without having to excuse it. You can take out the zombies and it will still not make a difference since they don't pose a threat if they can be beaten by a girl with a shovel. The sight of corpses would be more than enough to have the same psychological effect. You can even remove the post-apocalyptic setting entirely and you will still have a generic Moe Blob show that may not stand out from all the rest, but still stands on its own because the post-apocalyptic setting is an afterthought. You are mostly watching cute girls doing cute things and close to no action, survival or psychological horror. This does not change as the show progresses. It doesn't take itself more seriously by reducing moe and increasing psychological horror, further proving how the former is all that matters and the latter is just an afterthought. Yuki is not the only autistic character, all the Moe Blobs are, since they show no interest to find out anyone else that might be alive out there, including their families and friends. Even if they know they are all dead or believe they are the sole survivors in the whole planet, they do not show the horror of said realization and keep acting like it's all going to be okay. This is why Lord of the Flies does right everything Gakkou Gurashi failed completely to present. No schools, no Moe Blobs, no imaginary friends, no zombies that get bitten with a shovel, and a heavy emphasis on showing the psychological effect isolation and lack of proper guidance has on the minds of young people. Fuck you, modern anime, and hooray for retro books.
He puts his hand on his chin, which means he's lying. The first 2 seasons are absolute garbage. Take that however you will. I saw last week many are like, I don't like what you're saying about this series. If you truly love a series, you will acknowledge all its faults and even point them out. But if you only look at the good, then clearly you're just a fanboy. Here we go again. Chibi's here to complain about the episode, and he's gonna mention all the bad, he's gonna be nitpicking. It would honestly be a lot easier on me just to be nice to this series, because then, you know, I would probably get a lot more, good karma, basically, from these episode reviews. Lying, putting his hand on his chin, saying, I actually enjoyed this episode, I'm not gonna lie. Oof. You see the flowers and you see the paper airplane right next to Shinohara. It adds a little bit of like hidden meaning there. Lying, putting his hand on his chin, saying, I really like how Studio Clown actually added that in. It was a really good scene. It was good setup. Oof. I do actually like the direction of that. Lying, putting his hand on his chin, saying, Big Madam and all that. Oof. Lying, putting his hand on his chin, saying, it's a pretty good episode. Oof. So that's kind of insane when you think about that. Oof.
The deeper I fall into the anime hole, the less likely I am to leave my cozy little otaku hovel.
I wonder what effect that will have.
Praising a show that portrays this kind of lifestyle as being acceptable or potentially even desirable. Recovery of an MMO Junkie is a love story for the modern age.
Ooh, he said the M word!
Morioka's decision to drop out of the corporate world to play MMOs all day works for her, and the series makes it a point to say that that choice is beautiful and valid.
Because it's a show that panders otakus?
Notice the bright flowers.
Uh-oh.
The brightness of the bouquet, which we can assume was a going-away present, both serves as a reminder that there are elements of working life that Morioka could potentially find comforting or hard to leave, i.e. her co-workers, and contrasts the darkness of her outfit, which helps emphasize how out of place and distant she feels from the rest of that community.
Or it's a bunch of flowers!
In the physical world, she has social anxiety, lack of self-confidence, a body she isn't happy with, etc. But in Fruits de Mer, she's able to create a character who lets her express her best self, because who wouldn't want to be a hot guy if given the choice, am I right?
And that's why anime nowadays are all about escapism.
There are 3 possibilities.
Oh boy.
Either Morioka is overestimating her own ability to handle the corporate world, or she's intentionally lying to Hearth, or she's lying to herself and trying to believe that office work is what she really wants to do.
Or this is all just speculation that can mean anything you want it to mean.
Hayashi represents a complete separation of her virtual and physical lives. He's everything she isn't and everything she wants to be. Handsome, confident, capable.
And now you see why so many love the idea of getting trapped in video games.
Their relationship is shown through some very clever and playful light symbolism.
Because symbolism makes it seem like it's more than otaku pandering.
See here how the colors are bright and pleasant, and we can perfectly see this beautiful mountainscape through the bright sunlight in-game. This represents a transition from where Morioka was trying to find happiness before, in her job, to where she's trying to find it now, in-game. That's important visual symbolism.
It's just a bunch of mountains.
Stop forcing yourself to be something you're not.
An analyst.
And that's part of what takes MMO Junkie from being a good show to being a great one.
Fucking modern anime.
A new chapter/manga from Ashita Sui, the author of Tokyo Ghoul.
The main reason to use symbols isn't to explore a deeper idea, but to instead show off to the world how super smart I am.
Just allow many, not just myself, but many, sit down, discuss, and just theorize many different things about the series.
Once we have our theme, the best way to expound upon it is to prattle on and on about it for pages on end.
It's gonna have a lot of symbolism, really a lot of hidden meaning, some dialogue that really just makes you sit back and think, etc.
Be sure to keep packing more and more symbolism into the story without worry that the overabundance of symbolism will dilute the impact of each symbol individually. Just keep piling on symbolism until it drowns out the plot and characters, because telling a good story should always be secondary over letting the world know how smart I am because I read up on Norse mythology on Wikipedia.
I guess it's also an analogy maybe to heroes. Do you think heroes like to be in a crime-ridden city and continuously doing work and hero work because, they like to do that stuff? I actually think that's interesting. I feel like that's what the analogy means.
Does this mean that employing symbolism is in fact a very careful and thought out process that requires research and careful execution? No, of course not. Time spent researching and understanding is time better spent thinking about how future generations of literary elites will be praising the depth and complexity of my deep symbols that took a whole Google search to find.
This vulture is obviously being a reference to, our main character Tokyo. It would explain his lifestyle, because how he was very carefree, as I was just talking about. He was someone that was like a bird, someone that was not really worrying about school. It makes a lot of sense now.
When unsure about adding a new element to the story, it becomes easy for a writer to ask whether or not that element meshes with the theme. But since that requires a basic level of introspection and thought, the far superior method of implementing a theme is to use it like a hammer on the story's plot and characterization, smashing them both into pieces so they can fit within the theme rather than adapting the theme to fit into the story.
It's because he literally is a vulture. He's just, coming in for the scraps, that's about it, taking, a little bit of praise from others and just feeling happy about it, etc. That's what I get so far.
Added excessive and largely pointless symbolism, and use motifs to turn my characters into walking English class notes rather than a compelling cast.
I think we got our symbolism here. This head just popping like a watermelon, these two heads, and you see do or nothing, so this is obviously, some added stuff going on.
Rather than being planned ahead of time, having a theme emerge organically within a work and then honing that theme over subsequent revisions won't work, because a true auteur would never allow their work to be tarnished by a filthy editor and their irrational mandates to stop acting like a pseudo-intellectual poser with delusions of grandeur.
That symbol on the moon definitely looks like something that looks like symbolism or something, with the moon symbol, with the shadow on it, that looks like a dragon, actually, kind of like it.
It helps to remember that when it comes to themes, symbolism, and motifs, it's always better to be as pretentious as possible.
He looks so much kind of like Kaneki to a certain degree, like the Kakuja mask.
Now, what if I'm so super smart that I'll want to use the same symbol over and over again? Well, then it becomes a motif. A motif is a repeating element, symbol, or idea that occurs over and over again.
Oh my goodness, yo, you can see the design that Ashita got from Tokyo Ghoul in this. Oh, that's nice.
Character motifs in particular are great because a skilled writer will use motifs to completely supersede the character of said character. Just create a character from a broad archetype and then slap a motif on them. Done! If anyone complains, then just give the character some sob story background.
I do truly appreciate it. I'm glad to be able to just see a new work from Ashita Sui. It makes me so happy.
Don't naturally blend motifs into the background or into characterization. They should be front and center, drawing away the focus from less important things like believability and consistency. Why blend symbolism and motifs into the background when they can blend everything else into the background?
I can't wait to really dissect and look at what this chapter has to offer, because it definitely has a lot of things that are hidden behind the scenes with some of its panels. I can't wait to really look deeper into.
At the end of the day, most people just want a good story, not a literary analysis. Which is the completely wrong attitude to have. How else will I show the world how smart I am?
Since we are riding the symbolism fad, here is a small confession regarding my story. Most of the names you see on this map are the Greek names of flowers. And before you start calling me a hypocrite, Let me assure you that I chose those names almost a decade ago and they mean nothing outside of a thematic tie. There was an empire called the Bloom and it named every territory after a flower. That is all. They don't symbolize anything and they don't have a hidden message. That's why they are not pretentious and are not making my story better because of relativistic bullshit.
Looks like a typical slice of life, looks like Yuri bait, etc. But there's just so much more here that you could really dive into, and I love that type of stuff. That's stuff I crave when I'm watching a series. I want, like, just something that really makes my mind start to think. There is a lot of, like, flower symbolism in this series. You will legitimately see, like, flowers. Flowers that are very reminiscent of just ominous omens or death itself. Like, if anyone has read Tokyo Ghoul or watched the anime, there's a lot of flowers in TG. Flowers can represent a lot of things, like life, etc., but it also can represent death, and obviously Ashita Sui, the author of Tokyo Ghoul, he used that concept quite a bit. However, there is a lot of other manga, a lot of light novels, and art, etc., that use flowers in such a way as well to just depict death, or, you know, symbolic for death itself, and when I think about just what this series has done with, like, flowers, etc., it's hinting that she's going to die, or maybe the death might not be of, let's say, the body, it might be of the mind or the heart itself, or maybe technically since she already has an artificial heart, maybe she already technically has died, and maybe that's what the series is trying to reference. There's multiple meanings to this and multiple ways to really look at the symbolic nature.
Violet Evergarden is all about Violet Evergarden. All of these feelings are meant to reflect the feelings. By imparting these feelings upon the viewer, one is immediately placed into one of the many possible mentalities that Violet may end up having. We are placed into the mindset of what we hope the future Violet will be, but what the present Violet most definitely is not. The anime is constantly referencing flowers, named after the flower, and then there's Iris as well as the flower kingdoms. The flowers that it shows us are specifically purple. Flowers are emblematic of nature, and that Violet's name constantly connects her very being to nature. Violet often ends up making connections with people during Twilight. As Twilight is a transitional period, it makes sense then that these would be transitional moments. Most of the curtains are green, which is the same color as the skirt of Violet's first outfit. This is a way of connecting Violet with windows. Windows show a connection with, but also a separation from, the outside world. In order to know ourselves, we may need to look inside ourselves, but we also need to look outside. We see Violet change from green to yellow to blue to pink. Just like the seasons, she is changing. Perhaps it is about reminding ourselves that the world can be full of wonder. Perhaps it's about the idea that introspection will not necessarily fix the things we don't like about ourselves. Perhaps it's about our need to also look outward.
The squawk of a penguin is a pretty versatile thing. They have calls for when a threat is approaching. And in response they'll let out a squawk as if to mean, "Can anyone hear me? I'm alone." And in response their partners or other penguins will squawk in return, as if to say, "We're right here with you." In a sense, the Kasasura Yori are penguins. Often translated as right, or as a seeking of affirmation. Like a penguin's call, it really is a versatile thing. It's a penguin squawk.
After the Rain is not what it seems, is dripping with meaning. As the story goes on, romance is repeatedly pushed to the background, and an actual relationship never develops between the two. This symbolism is set to imagery of a dark and rainy track field that slowly transforms into a bright and sunny one. Playful tone, bright colors, and abundance of heart iconography. A wistful and melancholic theme whose lyrics touch on longing and goodbyes, consumed by the darkness of rain. Metaphorical swallow. There may be some happiness to be found by staying behind. The swallow would forever long for the sky. Struggles and failures being affirmed through a cute anime girl's love and acceptance is an alluring fantasy. There's very occasional snippets of uncomfortable male gaze, with absolute oodles of subtle visual storytelling. Akira is ultimately an object, a shallow, cute thing to accept whatever feelings we project onto her. Childish infatuation born of immaturity, not truly deep.
The themes of My Hero Academia can dive pretty deeply. The most interesting piece of symbolism in the series for me is the scars, visual testaments to their own shortcomings and hang-ups. Deku's reckless use of One for All. He is forced to learn that unless he starts using more restraint, he will destroy himself. those elements acquired from his father specifically, is viewed with intense hatred as abhorrent and ugly. Scars are a perfect fit for the ideas he puts forward in it.
This series breaks the genre's mold.
Death Note is a story whose popularity has lent itself to a reputation largely characterized by feat as a symbol of defeat, of pseudo-praise, and near worship of superiority.
The era of hands is over. The era of feet has just begun.
So L's death is tragically symbolic in a way. Struggles and battles will end in defeat.
The era of hands is over. The era of feet has just begun.
The symbolic representation of the struggler were on a more or less equal footing.
The era of hands is over. The era of feet has just begun.
Let's talk about some real meat when you see the hands appear. I thought I was reading a Tokyo Ghoul chapter. You see everybody's hands wrapped around him. A very symbolic panel. His sister holding his hand. It's symbolic, his grandparents also holding his arm. This has a double meaning to it. His father with his, hand on Shigaraki's face. Kind of symbolic in a way when you think about it. Her hands around his throat is definitely very significant. It's quite a heavy one. Putting his hand on Shigaraki is definitely very significant for a major reason. There is a lot of things there. When it came to the skyscrapers and the hands reaching out, it's gonna probably take me a bit to fully understand everything. He wanted someone to reach out a hand, lend a hand. There's a lot of things you could gain. The dreamscape with the hands rising out is literally the hands he wanted but never arrived. I find it just so amazing by the way that was done.
Because as their designated artistic genius, people find meaning in things that were completely unintentional, constantly searching for and finding significance in random happenstance, like the inverse of paranoia, searching for meaning in everything. Here's a good example of finding meaning where it might not have been intended: jewelry, symbolism, and outstanding foreshadowing.
Oh no, not again!
There are layers upon layers of symbolism in Frieren. Rings have been incredibly symbolic. Frieren chose to use jewelry as a primary form of symbolism. Frieren holds on to jewelry that represents previous lost relationships, an heirloom of the past. Thurn has an obvious running motif with nature and butterflies. The show is so packed full of intentional and subtle symbolism. Symbolism in Frieren is so important. I think there's tons of interesting ways you can explore the symbolism between fern and butterflies, like a butterfly hair ornament. Butterflies are once again an object that has a lot of symbolism already established around it. Searching for meaning in everything.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
The symbolic nature of what this scene is trying to convey. The background kind of emphasizing like the hour of twilight. That is the symbolic nature of what this represents. And to kind of dive deep into this, if you look at just the backdrop, it's very clear what the animators and the people that worked on the scene really wanted you to feel. Is that you had the night sky with the stars. And when we think of the stars, we look at the vast greatness of space. We think of just how overwhelmingly huge space is when you see stars and all that. You also think of freedom and maybe just different lights. So many shining stars within the sky. When you look at the bottom of this image, you see the sun that either is setting or going up. Whatever may be happening, the sun is somehow having a contrast with the bright sky with the stars. And it's the hour of twilight to where it's like in between life and death, dark and light. It's just seeing that this is a turning point in Kana's life and Ruby's life, saying that her used-to-be child actor is dying here. She wants to be better. She wants to have courage and the will to be able to be successful within, her career as an idol. So I try my best to, always, be the best and, be honest, etc. And that's what I've always stuck to. So yeah, I love the symbolic theme of this scene. It's just like the end of something, but also could be represented as something brand new. They actually have like weeds here, or a flower, technically, for those that want to dive in deep to Oshi no Ko. Despite the hardships, despite how difficult life may be, the paved road is, keep pressing forward, never give up, and on top of that, life will find a way. And once again, this goes very well with the whole Twilight message I just talked about, is that when you think about just what this scene represents, this weed here, which I know looks like a flower, but it is a weed, is growing in the middle of the pavement. So there's a crack in the road, and in a way, when you think of a crack in the road, it could be an inconvenience. It could be something that could be annoying to those trying to pass by, because the weed is annoying you, it could cause bumps or something on the road. But in this case, the way this, entire message is kind of representing is two different things. Either it's representing there's always going to be bumps and cracks on the road, and you still need to be able to push forward and keep moving on with your life, which once again goes very well with the Twilight message at the beginning of this video I made. But also it can represent, since we can see 3 different weeds here, the 3 different weeds can represent Kana, can represent Mincho, and it can represent Ruby. We don't really know. The point is that we can assume that, with any weed, usually they're a pest, and people try to tear them out and all that, but they somehow find a way to survive and live, and that's kind of what Kana's story has always been about. We have seen that her very story is always about hardship. She's trying to struggle to be better and all that. I've been under a lot of stress, anxiety, a little bit of depression here and there. She doesn't have anyone that she can rely on, someone that can inspire her, so to speak, within her, friend group or family group. And the only people that she currently has right now is obviously Ruby, Mincho, and Aqua. Some of my family members wanting to sue each other, and they're trying to involve me in it. But it's heavily implied that her very relationship with her parents is very strained, her family's very strained, she doesn't really have anyone she can rely on in, blood related, which is legitimately sad. Some of my other individual relationships and family and all that basically always seeing me as a source of oh, will you give me something, instead of actually caring about my well-being. And it's clear that because of just her child acting, she was used potentially by her family. If I was to theoretically, break my legs or something, if I was to get up after this video, they wouldn't care too much at all. They would never check on me. The only thing they would probably care about would be to, maybe see if they can get something from me. And she's just always felt very isolated. They only cared about the fame and the money, and since that overall dried up, since, she doesn't make as much money as she used to, they no longer really care to interact with her anymore. I have not been feeling too good. Anxiety and sadness and all that I've been feeling. So there's a lot really going on here, a lot of deeper themes, her losing popularity within the industry. She is someone that obviously her relationship with her family has become almost non-existent. I sit by myself and I get very sad. I cry a little bit. It's very clear that Kana hasn't had any support whatsoever. You guys really do bring me a lot more happiness than you know.